everyone coming on in. Thank you. All right. Hello. So I hope everyone's doing well today. It is Q&A Wednesday, one of our favorite days out of the week. And so if you have any questions, that is a good time to ask them today. Anything about woodworking, design, business, life. Anything that we can talk about that you're interested in. And until we get questions, I figured we'd start talking about creativity and kind of how we work as creative professionals. Before I get into that, you can catch us Monday through Friday here on Instagram Live at 2 p.m. Eastern. And don't miss Mary May Wood Carving on Twitch at 1 p.m. Eastern. And then you can also join me tonight at Women of Woodworking is my my personal project, and we've started doing weekly lives over there, which are a lot of fun. So catch me tonight at 7:30 over there. So yeah, I feel like I'm doing advertisements whenever I do that. It's like okay, so
Yeah.
so there you go. All right, hi Carla. Hello Wood Design. Hello Felix. Hello Troy. Hello Electric. Hi everyone. So and just in case you have to get off early, we do record these and share them to YouTube as well, so you can go back and hopefully none of us will like swear or do something stupid, but if we do, this will be on YouTube. So,
They don't kick us off.
yeah, they don't kick us off. So but yes, so the topic kind of today, until y'all come up with some great questions for us, and also please tell us where you're from and what you're working on. We'd like to know a little bit more about you too, so please say hello. But I'm a creative coach, and what that means is I work with anyone, but I work with a lot of creative professionals that are either looking to develop a new project, possibly start their own small business. They might work for another company and aren't sure kind of what their career moves are going to be. Just kind of anything, involving creativity. They can come to me for advice, and I sit there and listen and try to give the best constructive advice and also some creative strategies to help them through the process. So that's a big thing that I do, aside from being an artist and a writer. I mean, creativity is my jam, it's my thing. But I know not everyone feels that way, and that's also why people come to me to say, hey, I have this idea, but I'm not a very creative person. How do I make this happen? And it's finding ways to empower them and believe in their creativity and developing creative skills. A lot of woodworkers say, I love woodworking, but I'm not a creative person. So they love to build, they love the process of it, they love the technique, but they can't think of their own designs, or, aren't really sure what to do next. And I've always found that very interesting, that people that are so connected to their materials in that fashion seem to struggle with creativity. What's kind of been your experience with? Were you always a very creative person growing up? I guess is a good place to start.
I would say maybe, but I never thought I was, or never.
You're like looking back.
Well, yeah, looking back, I could say, well, yeah, a little bit, but I mean, like, I think for the most part, the answer is no. I never considered myself, an artist or very creative. Looking back now, Legos was kind of my thing, and so I think I think that relates. But I never didn't draw. I enjoyed art class, but past, I don't know, I can't even remember now, probably first or second grade, that was it. And that, and so I never really even missed it. Never, thinking back about before woodworking, that and I guess sitting here saying that out loud, I wonder if maybe it was I didn't have the medium that I was looking. Maybe because I feel creative now, and I think that's grown, and I think that's whether just by experiences or being involved in the craft. I think it's definitely blossomed into other things, with design and build, and then I'm still not a musician or anything, but really enjoy music, and I just do some more creative things.
You do have an ear for music.
Yeah, but I just never I never considered myself an artist, and I think it might be just because I didn't have the right thing to focus on, because and even since furniture, I've had people like, "Oh, that's a work of art," or "You're an artist," and I remember at first being like, I didn't like it almost, but now and I was like, "Ooh, that's a compliment." So.
Oh, there's Maddie again.
Okay.
So, well, let me see if we have any questions real quick while we're interrupted. Oh, Carla says it's looking good, big guy.
Thank you.
And Andrew says, that's me. So I'm guessing, Andrew, you're the woodworker, furniture maker who doesn't feel like they're very creative. So I guess while he's doing that, I'll just share a little bit about my history. I grew up being a very creative person. So like I said earlier, it's kind of always been my thing. But it was an interesting point that Joseph made, that maybe he didn't have his medium and how he didn't have any kind of arts education until after first or second grade, which it kind of strikes a personal chord with me, because I fully believe that the arts is a vital part of having a well-rounded, strong education, and there is just some personal expression that occurs through art, through music, and things like that, creativity that you can't get. So we do live in South Carolina, so it is a pretty conservative state, and we love living here. However, the arts is very much dependent on nonprofits here, that sort of thing. So while it can be a struggle, that has also opened up opportunities for things like this Blado Festival in Charleston, and also for artists like us to actually start small businesses and to really kind of start from scratch. So you can look at it either way. It's either, you're putting people at a deficit, or is there a blank canvas? And there's some really great rural artists out here as well, especially where we are at. It just seems to be a hub for creative people. So, okay, so Andrew says exactly, yes. So a woodworker who doesn't feel very creative. And I may have touched on this last week or the week before. You can go back and watch last week's on YouTube. That is up. What I encourage a lot of woodworkers to do is the journal practice, because, again, it's kind of that blank slate mentality. So just getting a blank journal and dedicating 15 to 30 minutes every day to it. Writing poetry, drawing pictures, sketches. You can draw stick figures, make a comic, whatever it is that kind of gets you going, and really make it into a practice. So your brain starts thinking in a creative habit type of way. So that's a good way to also discover your voice and discover what you really want to make. What do you really want to express? What style is really yours? What are you really trying to get out there? And it can take some time. It can take some serious digging. So that's what I always recommend to kind of the woodworking engineer types. Not to, just like keep it simple, keep it small, and just make it a daily habit. And then it kind of naturally, I feel like, builds on itself. It's a muscle. It's the creative muscle. We got a comment here from Carla. If it can be mentally or physically constructed, it's creating art. A lot of musicians don't sing or compose. Sometimes technique without innate skill gifts can lack expression. That is a great point. Especially when you talk about things like music and things like that. And I also think about industries that I'm interested in, like fashion. There's someone that designs the clothes, there's someone that makes the clothes, there's someone that models the clothes, there's someone that sells the clothes. There's all these other ways to be involved in a creative industry. And I agree with you, Carla. I think if it, if it's something you can think of, it's creating. And that's, that's the act of creating. How's Maddie? so
Yeah.
So yeah, but no. While you were gone, I just told him a little bit about my background was very different because I was always pretty creative, but also how arts education isn't really emphasized here in South Carolina, and how we're very dependent on nonprofit arts organizations, especially when it comes to educating our children, especially in underserved areas and rural areas. While that presents a lot of challenges, it also, I think, like I said, presents kind of a blank canvas for people to really do good work and really connect with kids over the joy of creativity. But I always wonder this. I always wonder, what young man is sitting away in his school or, bored, feeling like he has no place, feeling like he has no expression, no safe haven. And if he just had one person show him how to draw, maybe that would help him find an outlet. As kind of a dream of mine to get into kind of arts education, especially bringing the arts to rural areas, because I think it's really important. And there, like I said, there's some fabulous rural artists, especially out here in South Carolina. So yeah. I got double-sided tape. It works. It works. So what else is going on? Let's see. Tell us where you're from, what you're working on, how you doing. So yeah. All right. But yeah.
Trying to calm my sweat down.
We're trying to talk about, this stuff, but just being honest, our kids our kids, I think, are reaching their max level of isolation. So not really wanting to sleep very long, and it's been this way kind of for weeks. So just trying to ease on through. It will be fine. If that's our biggest problem right now, hey, I'm pretty grateful for that.
Yeah.
So let's see some other comments. Carla adds, artists of any kind should always study to sharpen their skill. Woodworking is a vision and intimate art many won't have. Much respect. Oh, and she's from Tennessee. That's right. Chattanooga, if I remember correctly. But yes, like I said, creativity is a practice. And especially when it's coming to something like this, what are your views and kind of opinions on practicing woodworking? I know let's start with something as basic as sharpening. That's the first thing kind of every woodworker has to learn. And it makes a difference how long you've done it for, if you have the right technique and all of that. What's kind of your opinion on practicing as a woodworker, in terms of that? Like,
as much as you can, anytime you can. I mean, it's, I have students or I'll joke with them and they'll come and say, I just can't get it. I'm not cut out. And I have to tell them I had the same thought when I started. It isn't like you pick up a chisel and all of a sudden you can cut a dovetail. It is practice. It's getting to know the way the wood behaves, the way the tools behave, what sharp is, and then kind of accepting nothing less than sharp, and then that leads to being able to control the tools better, and so all that's just practice. There's nobody paying you to do that. There's if you're a professional,
but you've done the practice.
Nothing's getting done besides knowledge being built. So there's some times where you might be in the shop and you might not be making anything, but you're building your knowledge, and it's
just making cuts. Cutting
dovetails, cutting repetitive, sawing to a line, pairing, with the chisel as close, to the line, being in control of it. That's how you do fine joinery. So until you can control it, until how the direction you have to go with the wood, and the angle of approach, I guess. Until you understand that, it's going to be hard for you to first of all step outside of what is just the basics, and to get into finer things.
Fundamentals.
Yeah. That's so extremely vital, unless you're just wanting to make stuff on I don't know, if you're just making stuff for yourself, or with no expectation, I guess. Most of the time it's not a hard thing to want to practice, because if you are really enjoying it, then
It's speaking to
it's
you.
speaking
want
to you.
It doesn't feel like
No, you
practice.
just, that's
You
all
feel
you,
like work.
you wanting to master it, which you never will, but you can attempt.
So Carla said smell, touch, excuse me, familiarity, and that was touching on a point I wanted to make. You said you're gaining information and getting knowledge. You're also building muscle memory when it's something
Absolutely.
like woodworking or painting and things that are
That's true.
very interactive. That's important to build up too. So
That's especially true.
it's
Sawing, like hand sawing, that's total muscle memory. Dovetail at a certain angle, that's a muscle memory of that angle that you hold. So that's a really good example of that as far as woodworking goes.
right. And even things like sewing and stuff like that I've done like off and on, like with years in between. Like I'll go back and I'll remember how to do it, but it's like, oh man, I'm rusty, and it's because my muscles haven't been practicing that. My mind might remember how to do it, but my muscles don't.
I mean, I've even experienced that since I've been teaching and not been in the shop. I've been like, oh, I'm rusty.
Yeah.
And it's just because I'm not doing it. I mean, I am, but I'm not focused on what I'm focused on. I'm helping other projects, and obviously I still know it, but it's I wouldn't go jump into a project with 5 dovetail drawers and not at least try to make a couple practice cuts beforehand.
Right.
Because it's it doesn't take long. Obviously, you gain that, you regain it, but. Oh boy.
So. Sorry, y'all. Oh boy. But yes, and a good example of how I've had to deal with practice, and also dealing with the fact that you're not going to be a master as soon as you try something for the first time. Like, it takes time to build a skill. I love painting, but it's been something I've kind of dipped in and out of, again, one of those things throughout the years. So I have picked up a little watercolor set Joseph got me. It's really cool. I should have brought it down here, but it's the Smart watercolor set, and it's just a bunch of colors. There's a watercolor pen, a nice little like mixing slide out palette thing, and that way I can use it whenever I can't make it down to my studio, or we're traveling, or I'm not feeling well. But I did a watercolor workshop with an Instagram friend of mine yesterday who's a fabulous illustrator. And I was like looking at mine and looking at hers and looking at mine and looking at hers, and I'm like, okay, I can tell this was my first watercolor drawing, and doing stuff just for the fun of it is really important. And that's really important, I think, no matter how far along you are in your practice. Doing stuff just to build technique and skill in the beginning is just as important as doing it. You've been woodworking almost 20 years now, so being able to practice. Another thought that I have on this, and I got this recently from the class we took with Mary May, was doing things like learning how to carve for the first time, practicing your squigglies. So we would just get a piece of basswood and draw squiggles, and you carve the squiggle and get used to using that V chisel. And so now I tell myself in my head, carve the squiggles,
Nice.
like this, just carve the squiggles, have fun, just learn, get used to it. So thank you to Mary for that too. So yeah, you doing all right?
Yeah. I didn't set the tents up for her.
Oh, yes. So, poor Madeline, she is going to be 3 in like a matter of days, and very disappointed to not have her like uniform birthday party and everything. So we're trying to make it up to her, but she's definitely in that age of like, come here, no, don't come here, or I want that, I don't want that. You know, do you want a cracker? No, and you got to put them up, and she just. So, we're very lucky. Our kids are very good spirited, and we have some great pictures. They were actually down here in the shop with Joseph last week on this, shaving horse doing stuff.
Yeah.
But I think like any parents we have our moments, and this is extraordinary times. Like, I think that's something else. Going back to our conversation again on creativity, I've seen a ton of posts from people saying, don't feel the pressure to be creative. Don't feel the pressure to build a new skill. Don't feel the pressure to, master this thing that you've always wanted to do, and just kind of, if you need to lay around all day and just kind of veg out, that's fine. And that's something else I think you need to take with you, I think, well beyond this, and something that I hope changes kind of culturally for us, is that I call it the wheel turning, the constant pressure to monetize this or make this productive or do that. And gosh, nothing kills creativity faster. I'll tell you what, especially when it comes to finances. Like, yeah, you got to keep your bills paid and your lights on. But again, it's important to do stuff that's just for being. We've tapped out of that way too much, I think.
Absolutely.
So, if you're not willing to entertain your own creative ideas, how can you expect anybody else to? So, I think that's a good way to look at it. And how do you learn new things? How do you live? How do you breathe? I don't know. So, but I can't do math. I mean, we all have our things, so,
That's another thing. I was terrible at math until it made sense. It was practical for woodworking. And then I'm like, oh, I got this. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So not only creativity, I guess just all the
practice your math.
The mind things.
Practice your math.
Yeah.
So, well, any other questions, guys? Let's see. I get to talking. Hello. No. So you want to talk a little bit about what you're going to work on tomorrow? I mean, look at this. Now you've got these stretchers in. That was what we covered yesterday.
Yeah. I don't know if you can't really see it on
Can't
that.
really see it on that one. Here. Let's get that over. Make sure this is still running. Good. Okay. Oh.
You still not gonna be able to see it. It's all right.
I just move it this way.
Okay.
See?
There you go. All right. Yeah. So we were laying out the joinery for these top rails, and so I got those cut and fit today, and so there's one more that goes on the bottom. So yeah, there's another block that goes in the rocker, between the rocker, and then after that, it's that's going to be another mortise tenon into the rockers. I talked yesterday about doing the live tenon or the floating tenon. I ended up doing a live tenon, just talked myself into it, even though I said it wasn't necessary, but that's kind of par for the course. But yeah, after that it'll be making the brass hold downs and making the seat and shaping the seat, and carving the seat.
You got yourself a stool, baby.
You got yourself a stool, baby.
And it rocks.
It does rock.
All puns intended. If you know me, all puns are intended. That's, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yep.
Well, Let's back over this way a little bit. Dude, loving the double-sided tape. So awesome.
Things.
Yeah.
Important tool in the shop. Most important tool in the shop.
Well, I guess we'll go ahead and wrap it up then if we don't have any other questions. I always look at you like, please tell me what I'm supposed to say.
I stare blankly back at you.
Like, I can't read your mind. We've been through this before. Anyways, we'll be back tomorrow, and we are here Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern on Instagram Live. You can watch Mary May wood carving over on Twitch at 1 p.m. Eastern, and then join me tonight. It is Wednesday, Women of Woodworking Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. I'll be doing a special weekly live over there, and last week we talked a lot about carving. Mary actually stopped in and join the chat, so hopefully we'll have some more good conversation this week. I had to bump it up because we got carried away and kept talking and it got too late, and I am, by 9:30, 10 o'clock, I'm like an old lady, and I'm like, all right, I'm ready to go to bed. So it's at 7:30 tonight, and we'll also be announcing our giveaway winners, so that would be good. So, and again, you can catch all of these on YouTube, Joseph Thompson Woodworks channel. Like, subscribe, and that way you can go back and reference things. But we will be back tomorrow. More stretchers.
One more stretcher.
Do you think you'll take this apart tomorrow and kind of show them where's and tenons, or is that something you think later on, not necessarily?
If I'm fitting this, then it'll have to come apart, but
we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Who knows what lies between here and then.
You never know. That's the cool thing.
Yeah, it's true.
All right, y'all. Take care, stay well, and we'll see you tomorrow.